just that one girl who just seems to have every little element of her life organized. Like seriously, she just has a folder for everything. Everything's color coded, everything's perfect. Well, to be honest, I don't get jealous of those people because that's me. I'm not trying to be cocky. It's just something I've literally spent my entire life doing, and everyone knows this about me. Over the last 25 years, I've built a very specific set of systems, keep every area of my life organized, scheduled, tracked, color-coded, maybe a little overmanaged, maybe a little bit anxiety inducing, but that's the way I like it. From my finances to my hobbies to my content creation system to genuinely the concerning amount of trackers I have for things that don't need them. We are gonna cover everything here today. I want to give you guys the insight to what an extremely organized, extremely systematic life looks like. I think it goes without being said that this is gonna be a very, very massive video. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So firstly, we're gonna be covering things that are pretty general, that kind of cover every area. So I think the best thing to show off first is my calendar. So this is what my calendar looks like. This is my Google Calendar. It links to my Apple Calendar, so I can see it on any of my Apple devices. As you can see on the side, I have all of my calendars color-coded by specific categories of my life, and then different shades of those colors represent different kinds of tasks within those areas. So like for content creation, all of my content creation is blue, but a darker shade means filming while a lighter shade might mean planning, and so on and so forth. I use this calendar to time block basically all the major repeating life events. So my work hours, my commute, my bedtime routine, my morning routine, any workouts I have scheduled, all of my content creation times, that is all in there. I usually fill this up more or less depending on how much I need to block out my week, but this is what always stays on here. I also like keeping a lot of tasks on here. Just the ones that I tend to kind of forget are things that are repeating tasks. So like weighing myself in the morning, having breakfast, taking in everything, shower. I also use my reminders app on my phone a lot, and a lot of them coincide with the task on my calendar. It's mostly because if there is a task on my calendar or in my reminders, it's gonna be something that, like I just said, I forget a lot, so I need a lot of push on that. I need to see it really often. I will also use reminders if there's something that's pretty far out that I don't necessarily want to put on my to-do list because I want to make sure that it's seen. Those are gonna go in my reminders to make sure I do it on that day at that time. I've also probably milked this a lot, but I also use my master to-do list to keep track on all of my tasks and to-dos that are coming up. This is just general things, so while my calendar and my reminders kind of keep me on track with habitual, scheduled, reoccurring things, my master to-do list keeps me focused on things that I want to do eventually, but are maybe not scheduled and urgent. At the bottom of my Notion dashboard, I also keep this like weekly layout. The things on this list are kind of weekly tasks, probably goes without being said. I'll put some things that are on my calendar on my to-do list. Like if I have a workout on my calendar, I will also put go to the gym on the to-do list, but I'll add smaller things that are just check boxes like do the dishes or fold the laundry, which might not be things I'm gonna put on the calendar because I don't feel like they need to be time blocked. The brain dump is kind of weekly tasks or weekly focuses if I have the time, but aren't set to a specific day. So basically I'll move those over if I know I have room on a certain day, but a lot of the time I don't. So what ends up happening is I'll write them down as I think about like, oh, I really want to do this week. And if by the end of the week I didn't have time for it, I usually just throw it back in my master to-do list, and I might pull it back out if I really need to focus on it that week, but most of the time that just cycles in and out with random things I want to keep on my mind. Next, I have my notes app on my phone. I use my notes app for really, really random things that I don't feel like I can put anywhere else. My Notion holds most of my big life things, but they're usually huge databases, huge spreadsheets that track a lot of different things. If there's just something I want to write down a few things on, it's probably just gonna go in my notes app, especially if it's something that I want to access quicker on my phone, because I use Notion a lot on my desktop. However, However, the things that are in my notes are usually going to be things I want when I just have my phone on me. So just going through my examples, I have a gratitude log. This is where I just write 3 things I'm grateful for every day or so. I haven't really been keeping up with it, but for a while I was doing it every morning and I just needed it again as something I could really quickly pull up. I also keep my grocery list on there. I have a references page, which this is probably the best one that I have. It keeps pretty much anything I need for like paperwork kind of stuff. So all of my addresses, my license plate, my license number, all of my doctors, all of my medical history, like literally everything that I need when I'm filling out forms. I keep a list of like all the events and concerts I want to go to. I keep a list of all the concerts that I've been to. I keep quick access notes when I travel. So I had one for Bali and I had one for Korea. I also have a list of line dances I want to learn. Like it's literally just stuff like that. And that's about it. Lastly, we have my habit tracking app. This is pretty new to the rotation, but I've been really liking it so far. It basically shows your year in colors, which I really like. I've seen a lot of people do this in bullet journals, but I don't feel like drawing bullet journals, so I just keep it all digital. I did have to pay for this app, but it was a one-time fee of I think like $2 maybe, and I use it every single day. I track my days total, so like a star rating out of 5, my anxiety, my crying. Yes, I track my crying. When I write, how many steps I get a day, what workouts I did, if I ran and how long, and what I posted on social media. So again, those are kind of my general systems. This is quite literally just the surface level of what I do because this is where basically nothing else fits. But now we're gonna go through every category that was in my master to-do list. If you looked at the top there, I had, how many categories is it actually? 11 major categories of my life. So that's how I do everything. I've talked about this a lot, but I do life audits every single week where I rate all these categories of my life, and that's how I figure out what I want to work on. That's how I figure out what tasks to put in the master to-do list. That's how I figure out my monthly goals and my yearly goals and even my daily to-dos. Within those bigger categories, obviously there's like subcategories, and I've created systems for kind of all of those. So we're gonna start with the category of health and fitness. So this one is pretty extensive, but honestly it doesn't get as extensive as some of the other ones, and that's just because this one's relatively new for me as something I've been building out. As I showed earlier, my workouts are pre-scheduled and they are the same muscle group areas each day that I go. So Monday is always upper body, Tuesday is always lower body, and Thursday is always full body. I try to only stick to those days. Sometimes I do move it around or sometimes I skip, but this is what I have it organized to be. I didn't say I was the most disciplined or the most, actionable person. I just said I'm the most organized. So that is what it's organized to be. Some people like to have a full workout routine already like built out for them. I just learned that that does not work for me at all. So the way that I do it is I have a note in my phone that is just titled gym, I think. And basically each muscle group has a list of exercises I can do for that area, and I can just pick when I go in. And I found that works better for me. Since I work out in an apartment gym, I don't really have like a ton of options. So I end up mostly doing the same thing every time, but if there's something I really don't want to do, I can just select a different one. Eating for me is a little bit more chaotic. I do have this recipe book that I keep in my Notion, and I usually pick 2 to 3 recipes from this book that I want to actually make for the week. Otherwise, I eat the same like 3 things for breakfast every day, and then I eat whatever I have at work for lunch. And then for all my other dinners that aren't specific recipes, I just keep a good stock of everything I know that I use. Basically salmon, milk, eggs, pastaroni, ravioli, stuff like that. I keep my grocery list as a note on my phone, as I said earlier. So if there is anything that I'm running low on, I just put it in that note. I place my delivery orders on Friday afternoon for Sunday morning. They're delivered straight to my door, and if there's anything that I have to meal prep or like get ready, I'll do that all on Sunday as well. For water, I keep my water bottle with me everywhere I go. I drink 2 of these a day. I always finish one at work, and I try to finish one when I'm at home after work, which that is like the absolute minimum I need to stay healthy. For sleep, my sleep is also on a schedule. What you guys saw on my calendar is what I use. I use my Oura ring to track how much I'm getting and how much deep sleep I'm actually getting. So if I'm ever tossing and turning at night, I can see that. I can also see if I'm in any sleep debt. As I said earlier, I do track my steps in Pixa, the habit tracking app. I also track it using my ring because that gives me the most accurate data. I'm actually just pulling the data from Oura for the habit tracker because that's just able to give give me a better visual. And as I also said, I track my workouts and my running in Pixa, but it's not super important to me that I have specific numbers. Like I don't track progressive overload or how many miles I'm putting in a week. That's just not where I'm at in life right now. I'm more focused on seeing the reps that I'm putting in and how many times I actually show up. When I have been running consistently in the past, I've used the Runna app or I've just done a Notion tracker, but just like I said, that's not where I'm at in my life right now. I also take a few different vitamins every day around like 7 p.m. I do have an alarm that goes off for it or else I will forget. I need to be annoyed into doing something like that because to take me away from whatever task I'm doing just to go take pills for 5 seconds, it's just something I don't like doing. For women's health, I do track my period. I use the Flow app. I don't track it as intensely as some people do because my period is pretty regular. I don't really do intense cycle syncing. I just like to know where I'm at and when I'm gonna bleed. Otherwise, I try to listen to my body as much as possible. I think that's mostly it. Otherwise, like appointments and stuff, I do try to schedule those when I'm at my previous one so that I just keep it on rotation and I don't have to call and schedule them later. And then I have a lot of my like maintenance tasks, again, as repeating tasks in my calendar or my reminders or both, like my everything showers or redoing my nails or doing a hair mask. But yeah, I think that's mostly it for health and fitness. Now we're gonna go into content creation, which if you thought I just talked a lot for health and fitness, you're in for something right now. I could absolutely make an entire video on how I organize my content. Let me know if you guys would be into that, like a literal start to finish YouTube video in the making kind of thing and all of the steps I take along the way. But for now, let's just do an overview of it. I would say right now my long form content is pretty polished. I have a pretty good system for it. I would say that my short form needs a little bit of work, but right now it's the best it's ever been. To make everything make sense, we're gonna go into my content creation page on Notion. 95% of my content creation stuff lives in here. As far as any other systems I have for this, I do have my YouTube journal. So this is where I brainstorm specific ideas. Basically, like if I have a title that I want to work through or maybe a script, but I don't feel like typing that all out because I kind of just need it to be messy and throw a bunch of ideas out super quick, I will put it in this journal. Otherwise, obviously I have my phone, my cameras, my hard drives, and then also my Google Drive and my Canva. That's where I basically just document stuff, store stuff, transfer stuff. But back to the Notion, this is where most of my actual organization of the videos lives. We're gonna summarize this database right here first. So this is where I brainstorm all my upcoming ideas. So here you can see my brainstorming page. This is where I put literally all of my ideas ever. The things that are at least formed out enough to put them in an idea page, if you know what I mean. And yeah, the status board here just shows where I'm at in the process. So if I am filming something or if I'm editing it or whatever, this just shows where I'm at and I can drag it back and forth from each category. Then we have the upcoming or overdue calendar. So this is everything that I haven't finished working on yet. But if you go to this full calendar right here, you can see that I've had stuff prior to the 29th that was already uploaded or scheduled or anything like that. I do have a couple other pages in here. My series is just like to keep records of which videos I've completed in a specific series. And then my gaming one is literally just for my gaming content. It's the same exact thing as my lifestyle. So we can also take a quick look at some of my other pages up here. So first we do have followers trackers. I do track my followers on a month by month basis. And I do have a reminder in my phone to tell me to update this. So yeah, I just keep one for each account and for both of my different channels. I have pages for UGC content and for sponsorships and affiliates and partnerships. Those are all gonna be future pages. I haven't really used those much. I have some references, so this is stuff I can look back on. I'm not gonna show the pillars and callbacks because I don't know, I just feel weird about that one, but that's just where I kind of keep certain ideas for my channel, like what I want to stay focused on, all in there. And then if we go into video content folders, so this is basically what a folder in my hard drive looks like when I actually have a video finished. So I can actually pull that up too. So as you can see, this is what my folder looks like for 2026 for all of my videos. So I basically just have the date and then the video title. It's literally copied and pasted straight from the YouTube title. And then if you click on any of these, it's the same format that I had in my Notion page. It just tells me how to make sure this all looks the same every time. And then I keep any videos that I'm working on in progress are on deck, and scrap, they're all the ones that I didn't end up posting. For specs and setup, that's just all of the equipment that I use. So everything on my PC, all of my camera equipment, everything like that, it's just literally a list. And then inspiration, this is just like more detailed elaboration on a few different series. So like we are currently in the 365-day challenge. We're also currently in the Dream Life Diaries. I'm doing both of those right now. It's just basically me writing out like each step I want to take, like each goal I want to hit in a certain challenge or on a certain thing. And then the vision is literally just like the entire vision, I guess, for my channel. So like all of the things that I want to accomplish with it. I also have all of my thumbnails in a specific project on Canva. So here I can just copy and paste different elements so that I can keep a similar style. This is how I keep kind of the same theme with all of my thumbnails, because I'm just literally copy and pasting fonts and edits and everything like that. Another thing that I like to do, basically because sometimes I see ideas on social media that are not worth like making an entire Notion page for, I do have saved folders in both my TikTok and my Instagram and some in my YouTube that are literally just inspiration for things I want to either remake or do the trend that they're doing. That's more so of a backlog, because as you've seen, my calendar is kind of filled out already, but when I'm lacking on ideas, I usually just scroll through that saved folder every week or so, and I'm like, oh, I want to do this one this week. Oh, I want to do this one. So that is the general overview for content. So now we can move on to hobbies. And guys, this is even worse. It might be because there's a lot of subcategories, but there is a lot to the way I organize all of my hobbies. Like this script is pre-written and this section alone is like 2 pages. So bear with me. So first we're gonna go into consumption like hobbies. Basically, I track everything that I read, watch, play, listen to in one way or another. I literally have a page in my Notion just called Consumption Corner because that's how much I keep up with all of this. So let's start with reading, because that is what I track the most seriously out of all of these. I actually have 2 reading trackers. So the main one that I use is Storygraph. I do have a public account, so if you want to follow me, just type in that username and you can. But this app tracks my reading on a day-to-day basis. Anytime I have a reading session, I do log it in the app. And then when I do finish it, I mark it as complete, rate it, and put my review in. I do like Storygraph because it can give me graphs like the title suggests. It can tell me like the average time it took me to read a book or what kind of genre I most prefer. I can also see my reading streak and see how close I am towards my reading goal for the year. But I also keep a Notion tracker for this. Let's not act too surprised. What I like about my Notion tracker is this authors page. I'm a completionist to a T, so when I like an author, I usually want to read all of their books. For example, Emily Henry is an author that I've been working on, so when I scroll to her name, I can see which books I've already read by her and which ones I'm missing, because I've put all of them in here, just the ones that I haven't read are marked as TBR. Yes, it kind of sucks that I don't keep any kind of 0.25 or 0.5 rating. I could put that in. I honestly just don't care to. I am fine with having just the star emojis. And it's also okay because my star ratings are reflected in Storygraph. So if I need more details, I just go there. For TV shows and movies, I do have one dedicated tracker in Notion. I used to use Letterboxd, but I am not that much of a movie snob to really take that seriously. So I just stopped doing that altogether. And now I just keep it on here. So this tracks, like I said, all my TV shows, all my movies. I also have variety shows and YouTube series in here because that's where I'm at in life. And yeah, they're all just divided by status. So if I'm currently watching them, if I finish watching them, if they're on pause, whatever. I also have this little heart page. You'll see this on all of my different consumption trackers, but this is just all of my favorites. Next, we're gonna go into my video game tracker. And I will say that this is one that's not meticulously updated, and you're gonna see why in a second. So I play a lot of games, and sometimes it's hard to track the exact progress, but like I said, I'm a completionist. I like to basically know when my games are complete. Whether or not they're complete is subjective. So right now, this is every game that is like on my radar in one way or another. Whether I'm actively playing it, passively playing it, put it on backlog, or just have it in my wish list. These are all the ones that are like in my rotation in some capacity, and all of these in off the radar are the ones that I have like given up on. Either I completed them 100% or I'm not keeping them in my brain as something that I need to finish anymore. Lastly, for media consumption, I actually have a way of tracking my music. I'm extremely crazy about my Spotify playlist. As you can see here, basically the first 4 at the top are little eyeshadow palettes. So I have my everything playlist, which is literally 72 hours long. It's everything that I've ever listened to. So every time an artist that I like comes out with a new album, I put the entire album on that playlist. And anytime I remember a past album or a past song that I've listened to before, I also put it on that playlist. Next is my current rotation. So this is just everything I'm currently listening to a lot. I try to update it every week or so, like kind of when songs start not being as good to me anymore, I'll take them off and then I'll add new ones in. And the next 2 will make a lot more sense when I actually show the Notion database. But basically, here comes the completionist attitude again. When I like a music artist a lot, I tend to want to know their entire discography word for word. So what I've been working on is as I go through an artist's entire discography and I look at every song, basically when there are songs that I listen to a lot but I still don't know every word, I'll put it in the added to my library playlist. But if there's a song that I haven't really put in my rotation yet and I haven't gotten a lot of exposure to, that's when I'll put it in the unplayed. Just bear with me because this will be much better explained when you see the Notion template. The next 2 I have are folders. So I do have an activities folder, which you can kind of tell what each playlist is in there. They're just linked to specific activities. The artists and albums folder, I really haven't gotten a lot of time to go in depth in here and to make all of these out, but what I'm gonna do is go through each artist that I like and put all of their albums as their own playlist in an album in the album folder. And then for the artist, I'm going to make a playlist for each of the specific artist and their entire discography start to finish, because even if you shuffle an artist on Spotify, it doesn't play through like every one of their songs. It starts shuffling through random people. So I want just a solo playlist with all of their music. I only have Tate McRae in there right now. I am gonna be making others. I actually have Taylor Swift's playlist cover already made. I just haven't actually made the playlist, but they're all gonna be in this same style. Moving on, we have the feelings category with the CD covers. They all have B in front of them, which was just a way for me to be able to sort it, because like you can't manually sort on Spotify. You have to have it sorted by title or by like date opened or whatever, but I wanted all of them to be together. So anyways, long explanation to say that all of my CDs are with the B in front of them so that they're all in the same spot. But I also thought it was cute because since they're feelings, it's like saying you're like being something, like be sad, be happy, be promiscuous. I don't know, it's just like it fits the vibe. Next are the chocolates. These just have D's in front of them and that means absolutely nothing. It's literally just a sorting thing. But yeah, these are all genres. I do have like a few K-pop ones that are specific to a type of K-pop genre. So like I have my old gen playlist and then I have like my newer gen playlist. And now we're almost done with Spotify. My last ones are holidays and seasons. So self-explanatory, I just have my holidays with little picture frames and then I have mosaic tiles for my seasons. Then we have niche. These are all the playlists that have nothing to do with anything else. They're tied to a very specific feeling or situation or event. Then I also have a folder in there for my novels. This is where I keep my playlist centered towards any books that I'm writing, and I only listen to that playlist when I'm writing that book. Lastly, I have a specifics folder. That's where I keep all my podcast episodes divided into Minecraft themes, and then I have another folder in there just for like the Spotify made. I keep them in their own little folder jail because they don't match the rest of my theme. I alluded to having a Notion template for my music, and here it is. I have made virtually no progress with updating this, which is why everything is work in progress. Actually, I don't have work in progress on a lot of these pages, but literally the only one I've done is Tate McRae. So this is the idea behind the spreadsheet for my music. All the songs are listed out. I do have them divided by album right here. They also have the percentage learned, which is like also kind of subjective, but it's how much I feel like I can sing the song word for word. And then this overall rating is actually determined by a series of factors that I just made up, but this is as objective as I could possibly make it because when When I'm trying to determine a favorite song, it's so hard to put like a sad song and a really happy song against each other. So I tried to find like 5 factors that are pretty universal no matter what kind of song you're listening to. So even like something like emotional impact can be, if it's meant to be a sad song, does it like hit you really hard as a sad song? And if it's supposed to make you happy, does it make you really happy? So this is what I made out of it, and I get an official like number that's calculated with a formula from all of my other ranking, and then I rate it based on that. So if anyone asks me, I can tell you my scientifically based #1 Tate McRae song. And yeah, I also keep the albums ranked down here with the same system. When I was talking about those playlists on Spotify and basically what songs go in the added to playlist or the unplayed ones, basically if I don't feel like I know a song enough to properly give it this rating, that's when it's going in unplayed. Yeah, because you can see there are several songs on this list that I have like not really touched as far as ranking. Also, when it comes to what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, I do have a page where I just log everything I did for the month just for my record. So if I ever want to go back and be like, oh, what was I listening to May of 2022? I have it. I know. As of right now, it's hard to say that I have a system for like any other hobby, because like we did talk about cooking a little bit. Photography, I wouldn't say has a system or like needs to have a system. Dancing wouldn't have a system. The only one I could maybe show you guys is writing. This one is pretty easy because right now I only have one project going on with writing, and all I have is a Google Docs page and a Notion page that just has like all the necessary information linked to it. And unfortunately, I can't really go into all of the information in there because it's kind of a secret, but we can go into the Pinterest page. We will deep dive into some of my Pinterest pages later, but since we are here, I will show off my page for the vibe of this book just as a little teaser. I'm absolutely worn out just from talking about all of that, but we still have so much more to do. So going into appearance, this is one of the lower rated categories of my life right now because I don't have a lot of things set up in the way that I would like them to be. So we're just gonna briefly cover this one. One of the main things I use when it comes to appearance is a cosmetics inventory. This is where I keep track of all of the products that I use, how many I currently have, and the links. I also have them divided into tiers. That lets me know basically where I need to store these items, because tier 1 will be I use these things daily, I need them in very close proximity so that I can reach for them every day. Tier 2 would be weekly, so they need to be kind of close by, but they can be maybe in a drawer. Tier 3 is like I only use it once every blue moon, so it can go somewhere else, like hidden away in a closet, and I can get it when I absolutely need it. But this is where I also figure out what products I'm missing or what I might need a better version of. This is something that's been really helpful, especially for my makeup, to be like, oh, I don't really have a foundation that I like. My concealer is okay, my mascara is like good enough. That lets me know that like if I have some extra money set aside for makeup, then I know what I need to prioritize. Like of course I need to prioritize foundation because I don't have one, but maybe next I'll focus on concealer because I don't really like it as much. Something like that. One of the only things out of all of these systems that I have across all of my categories that I feel completely at a loss about is my clothes. Right now, I just don't have a good system for organizing my clothes, but I more so believe my issue here is a lack of options. I'll find outfits that I like, but they're very far and few between. Also, living in like southern Wyoming, northern Colorado area, the weather is so unpredictable and I never know what to wear. Like even if I find an outfit I like, it'll only work properly for like 2 days out of the year. What I'm doing at this current time is basically setting aside an area of my closet that has the clothes that I love, and even if I had all the clothes in the world, I would still keep those items. And then I have another section that is just the stuff that I keep right now because I don't have something that works like that specific object for a specific situation. Like I think I only have 2 dresses. I'm not gonna get rid of the dresses because if I need a dress, then I'm gonna wear that dress. I'm not gonna go buy another one, but I don't really like that dress. I just need to have a different one to replace it so that I have a dress if it's a dress wearing occasion. But as I'm able to get more money to spend on clothes, I'm slowly replacing the clothes on the side of like I only have this out of necessity and trying to add more to the side of like I actually love these items. Other than that, the way I go about purchasing any kind of beauty items is the same way I go about my groceries. I basically never let myself run out of anything. I always always have one backup of every item. So that way, if I do run out, I can just grab it, but then I make sure that I order a new one right away. The next category is social. And you might think it's really weird to have some kind of tracking for social, and I would agree with you. However, I do still track it. So first, I just made this spreadsheet in Notion called the Yellow Pages. This is a list of all the major people in my life that I interact with, how I know them, if they energize me, what purpose they serve in my life. This is not to put people into like any boxes or to rank them or anything like that, but it's to give me a better idea of my resources and who's in my corner. I have quite a bit of mental health issues, and when I crash hard, and I don't believe that there is anyone around who I can talk to. This spreadsheet is the reason I know I do, and it's not like I've wanted to like cut anyone out because of making this. All I've wanted to do is bring certain people closer. I also want to take this time to show off my contacts page on my phone. All of my contacts follow the same format. I have everyone with a little emoji with a solid color background. I keep a pretty hefty amount of information in some of these, like anything I learn about people. So if I know they're married, if I know their kids' names, if I know their favorite color, stuff like that, I'll just put it in their contact. But mainly, I'm just focusing here on the look of my iMessage page and my phone screen. I keep this as polished as possible because it keeps me sane. So this kind of brings me into my romantic relationship and the systems we have as a couple. So first and foremost, Colin and I have a shared calendar on Timetree. This was added in way before we decided we were going to live together, but it's still really useful now. I would say the bulk of what's on this calendar is like meetings. We usually text each other throughout the workday, so if there's any stretch of time where we're going to be in meetings, we're not going to text each other. It just kind of gives us the context. We don't just disappear for 5 hours with no explanation. We also have a lot of shared notes in here. So we have like TV shows we want to watch together, things we want to buy for a new place, our pickleball tracker, but mostly we just keep tabs on like things that we need to share information for. We also do weekly relationship check-ins, which basically consist of us saying what's going right, what's going wrong, and what do we need to work on the most next. We also have similar pillars of our relationship, kind of like I do with all the categories of my life. So it'll be things like intimacy, quality time, social life, family connection, shared vision, routine, stuff like that. So we just go through all of those and talk about where we're at with each of them. But this check-in keeps us on track and in tune with each other's feelings. It's honestly one of my favorite things that we do. I would say that these are the biggest things that we do together and the most like systematic foundational things, but some of the smaller parts will take us back into my Pinterest and even some of my saves on TikTok. So I think one of the things I really like to do with any kind of future planning is having a way to like keep track of it, but also just put it aside. Kyle and I have a general 5-year plan, which is just a really rough idea of all the things we'd like to do. It involves all of the typical stuff like moving in together, getting married, having kids, you know, the basics. Once we get to those stages, I guarantee you I will have more detailed spreadsheets and trackers. Like you will not see me going through wedding planning without some kind of Notion tracker. Probably gonna be a whole hub. But in the meantime, I just like to keep kind of specific folders set aside so when those things do come up, I can come back to them. And I basically have one of each for all the big life stages. So I do have a general relationship mood board, but I also have one for pets, one for parenting, one for our house, one for a wedding. And I do the same exact thing in my Instagram and my TikTok saves because when those things do come around, I know there's going to be specific content I want to make for it, and I don't want to lose those ideas or scramble to have to find all the things that I knew I had saved, but they can be put aside until it's actually upcoming. So basically, if I'm scrolling on TikTok and I see anything wedding related and I'm like, that's really cool, I'm just going to save it in a wedding folder. Same thing for Pinterest, same thing for Instagram, and we are not going to touch that until I have a ring on my finger and I'm like, okay, now we are wedding planning. So let's pull out everything that I have that's saved on their wedding, and then I'll start organizing it. This is kind of the same thing I do for any kind of event or vacation I'm going to be taking in the future. If it's something I don't have booked yet, but it's something I know I'm going to do eventually, I'll just keep it to a specific folder that I don't really look at. It's just if something comes up, it goes in there. Also, for my systems, I usually have pets under a specific category that I have different to-dos and goals for, you know, all of that. But I don't really have specific systems tied to our dog, Keanu, because I don't actually live with him right now. He's primarily Kyle's dog and he is living with him. So yeah, as of right now, I don't have a system for pets, but that will probably change once we do live together. So if this is a video that I maybe remake later on in life, maybe I'll have something something different for him. So home is an area of my life that I really don't have to worry about too much ever. I mean, I think I talked about the bulk of like my errands and my groceries when I talked about my health. I will say that I don't have any kind of like chores schedule right now. Basically, I just do a little bit of it every night. I can tell when everything hits a point where it's like, this needs to be done right now. Like I know at what point my laundry basket gets filled when I need to do the laundry. Same thing about dishes in the sink. Living alone, I haven't really felt like it's hard to keep up with it. I mean, I usually do my dishes when I am making dinner or right when I'm finished with dinner. Laundry is thrown in the washer as I'm going to take my showers. I do like a reset on the weekends on Sunday, so anything that hasn't been tended to is definitely tended to then. I am very particular about keeping things clean. I don't really wait for things to need to be cleaned to do it, but I also don't do chores on a schedule. I can just feel it in my soul when it needs to happen. And like I said, that process has worked well for me while living alone. Because Kyle and I are moving in together in July, I think this is another thing that will probably change a bit, but as of right now, I don't have a system and that completely works for me. I will say that for a while when I was trying to find my groove, I had a specific Sunday reset template that I referenced every time just to go through the checklist and make sure I'm doing all of it, but I started spreading a lot of those tasks throughout the week, and now it's easy for me to just keep it in my mind, so I don't really need the template as much. I do keep trackers for really random household things as well, so like I have a tracker for my plants, which is only one right now, but I keep that to make sure I'm watering them when I'm supposed to water them because I'm really bad at keeping plants alive. And I also have a like car page on Notion that just keeps basic information, and I'm gonna eventually add like a warranty tracker and a repair tracker. I'm just not doing it yet because my car is so old that at this point I'm just waiting until it dies to get another one, but I will definitely be doing that for the new car. Okay, going into finances. I hope you guys are ready for another really long section because this is definitely going to be it. I've thought about doing a payday routine video several times, but I just don't know how I would go about it because I always do it at work and it involves a lot of expenses that I just can't show because they're work expenses. But definitely let me know if you guys want to see that and I will make it happen. And again, like I said with content creation, we're just going to try to do a condensed version of that here. First of all, to give a little context into my job, I'm an administrative assistant for a construction company, and that entails a lot of buying things. So basically I'm buying all the groceries. I actually make 3 different grocery store orders every week. I do one at Walmart and one at Sam's for both my company and the client's company. I also get every lunch every work day, and I get all the office supplies when needed. There's also some random things like I ship out stuff at UPS, so it's a lot of expenses. You guys get the point. Basically I'm spending hundreds to thousands of dollars every week just on work expenses, and that doesn't include all of my personal expenses on top of that. There's a lot of organization that has to be done to keep this in check. I have one main database in Notion that I use to track it, and it kind of branches off into a bunch of different views. I think the easiest way to explain it is to first show my credit card tracker. I'd say I use this part the most because I use my credit cards about 90% of the time. And going into this just means I have to explain what I use my different credit cards for. So I have 7 different credit cards, which all serve a very specific purpose. I started adding in more cards when I got this job, and I needed a higher credit limit to keep my credit score high because having a high credit score is really important to me. And then as I went on, I realized that maxing out your cashback rewards is like the key with having all these different credit cards. So Chase is my main bank. I do have my checkings account in there, but I also have 3 of my different credit cards on there as well. I have my Chase Freedom card, which I kind of just use for everything that doesn't fall into my other categories, so kind of a general use card. I have a Chase Prime card, which I use for all my Amazon purchases. Then I use my Chase Sapphire card for any travel expenses and also any restaurant purchases. Then I have a Bank of America card. I just got this one. It's the customized cash rewards card, I believe. I got this because previously the catering orders I was making weren't showing up as restaurants on my Sapphire card, so I wasn't really getting cash back for that. But then I looked it up and something said that maybe my catering orders will count as like online orders, and that's a category that you can choose on Bank of America. So I'm gonna see if that works. I have an American Express card, which I primarily use for gas and my streaming services. I have a Discover card, which I use for the rotating categories, and then I have my Apple card, which I use for Apple purchases or anything that I'm buying on my phone when I don't feel like going and getting another credit card. Doing things this way, I tend to get so much cash back that it almost feels like a side hustle, to be honest. And because I need to divide my purchases between so many different cards, I need this tracker so that I could organize the divide. Basically what I do here is I keep my personal expenses and my work expenses tracked in different groups, and then I have different views for each specific card. When I make purchases, I make sure that I label all that information correctly, and then I update it as the status changes. So every day I'm going in, I'm checking all of my cards, making sure that my total on the view of each card is the same total that's showing up as the balance on my card in the bank account. I'm also going in and checking the transaction history, so if there's anything that changed from pending to charged, I'm changing that status in the tracker, and again, making sure the balance is correctly reflected through the tracker as well. And then I have a specific view just for my work expenses, which I call the reimbursement tracker. This shows where each charge is in the expense report status. Some are awaiting management approval, some are awaiting the paycheck, some are in an expense report, but the expense report isn't submitted yet. Some are already reimbursed and paid. So that helps me when I actually do get reimbursed to make sure that the number on my paycheck correctly reflects what I have in my tracker. And then I know exactly how much I'm paying to each card, so I'm not paying with money that I didn't receive yet. I also have a similar tracker just for my checkings, and I have another one just for my savings. I will make a note that I also use Ally for my savings account. That app is able to organize my savings into buckets. It's still all a part of the same account. It's just separated into sections so you can see what you're specifically saving a certain amount of money for. And I keep those buckets reflected with my tracker as well. But anyway, when payday comes around, I use this specific template in Excel. The way that I have my Notion tracker set up, I can directly pull all of this information and put it into this tracker. So I can know I started with this amount of money in my checkings, and then I received this much on my paycheck, and then this is how much I was reimbursed for. I know that for my Freedom card, I need to pay a certain amount personally, but I also need to pay this much for my reimbursement. And then I know that at the bottom, my reimbursement total will always be 0 if I used all the money that I got paid back for. And then the final number in the bottom right will always be 100, because that's always what's left in my checking account after I put everything aside. So I just pay off all my credit cards. Whatever is left outside of the $100, I just keep in my checkings, I put into savings. And then I have basically a savings percentage that I use towards each of my buckets, no matter how much I'm actually saving. So for example, like every week I know I'm gonna put aside $500 for my rent, because that's how much I need to make sure I can pay my rent. Outside of that, whatever else I have left to save, I'm gonna put 50% of it to my emergency savings, 25% to a new car, 20% to travel or gifts, and then 5% to fund money. So no matter if I have $1,000 to save or $600, that percentage breakdown is always gonna be the same. And the last category we have is mindset and like mental wellness. I have a couple things that I do for mental wellness. We did talk about a lot of them in a previous video. How I organize my goals and my to-do list are a big part of my mental wellness, as well as how I process my emotions. I'm not gonna go too much into that because a lot of that was in that other video, but I will say that I mainly journal when I'm working through my emotions. I have kind of a journal ecosystem per se, where each one serves a specific purpose, but that's just how I get out my emotions. I also love to use specific cards or tools. Like I have this little CBT thought journal. So basically what this is like when something triggering happens, you write down the event, what you thought, what you felt, and what you responded with. Then you evaluate everything about this. So what made you think that the thought was true? Is there any evidence that that might not be true? And if the thought is true, what resources do I have to support me? And then you write a balanced thought at the end. So essentially your healthy response. So if I'm really triggered, that's a good way to think about it. Otherwise, if it's just kind of like a normal emotion, then I can just write about it. I've been talking about this a few times as well, but this is a values cards deck. So I've been using this to try to identify like what's important to me and what my values actually are. I also love question cards. There are so many of them out there. A lot of them are advertised to be like done with a partner or family where you ask each other questions, but I also think they are very rewarding to ask yourself. I have the self-love one from We're Not Really Strangers, and that just shows like a lot of those questions you can ask other people, but you can also ask yourself. In that same sense, like guided journaling or just like having prompts out is really, really good for mental wellness. Like just asking yourself very specific questions and working through why you think the way you do. So yeah, those are some of the things that I do just to go a little bit deeper, but generally I like to just journal. When it comes to staying on top of everything, I do use a master to-do list as I showed earlier, and that's pulled from my life audits, which I do weekly on every one of my categories. Also, as I said earlier, I also make these monthly punch cards. So these are directly tied to my goals for the month, which are also tied to my master to-do list, which are tied to my life audits. But basically I keep digital and physical punch cards to keep track of these like more consistent longer term goals, and I give myself rewards when I punch all of these off for the month or for the year or whatever I'm doing. At this point, we have pretty much covered everything, like legitimately. Unless we are going through my apartment and looking at every single corner of my space, or going to my job and looking at how I do my actual job, or I don't know, going into like all my folders on my phone and my computer, which like I really explained a lot of that too. I don't know what else I can really say. Like, this is me in a nutshell. This is how I operate. I am literally a massive collection of systems, just like different things I've come up with that work for me. And with all of these different things, I have found that I am more intentional, more organized, more focused, more disciplined than I ever have been. There's still a lot of room for growth. Like, there's still some things that I want to work on, which I have talked about. Like, I know that I don't have my clothes figured out. I don't have my makeup figured out. I don't have my food figured out. Those are the things that frustrate me a lot when I'm going through my day-to-day. Otherwise, I'm pretty chill, like with my home and with my money. I really like don't care that much. Like, I just go about the same routine over and over again, and it works for me because I have this system that I've made that's really meticulous, and I love it. Like, I love doing the same exact payday routine every single week. I love the way I do my chores. Stuff like that. The things that I am consistently rating 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 on my life audits every week. That's my goal for everything in life. I just want everything to feel mostly seamless. Like, I'm not saying that money is perfect every single time. It's not like I always feel like my finances are in a perfect place. I just like my routine and I like the way I do it. It's never a bother to go about paying off my cards and budgeting and all of that. Like, it's a good system for organizing it, because I don't do all of this with the goal of like life feeling perfect and never having any issues and never having negative feelings. It's just like the organization of it feels natural and doesn't feel like it's a million steps to get there. I hope that makes sense. But I guess that's all I have for you guys today. I feel like I'm out of words. Like, I'm past my talking limit for today. I think I've been filming for an hour and a half. I hope for someone this was worth it. It was cathartic for me. I will say that. But yeah, I hope there was something that you guys could take away from this. There was something that you learned or something that inspired you. I know that when I see other people talk about stuff like this, I'm always trying to find something I can steal, like something that I can use from their process. So it would be an honor if I could do that for any of you guys. But I think that's all I have to say for this video. If you guys did like it, definitely be sure to leave it a like and a comment. And if you're feeling generous, you can even subscribe. I do hope to see you guys all in the next video. But if not, bye-bye.